Hello and welcome to an all-new session of Ask TV, your go-to series for all things insurance. Today we are going to talk about something that hits close home for most of us, mental health at the workspace. At a time when we talk so much about corporate burnout, hustle culture and the flip side of it, it is very important to also talk about solutions. What is it that organizations can do to take better care of their employees? What is it that we can do to attain some semblance of work-life balance? To talk about all of this and more, we have with us today Mr. Sajja Praveen Chaudhary, who is the head of Policybazaar for Business. But before we start, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Welcome to the show, Sajja.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
How has the importance of mental health in the workplace improved the way businesses structure their employee benefits?
See, earlier, not many people used to speak about mental health and, related stuff in the workplaces. Now, given that the importance is growing and there are a lot of people who are speaking about mental health and related wellness things and all of that stuff, automatically, I think there's a bit of focus that has started to gain traction there. And as a result of which, now we've seen a lot of people speak about mental wellness related programs and all of that and what can be included in it when the employee benefit related programs are being designed or are being taken. So it is definitely, whatever discussion that's started to happen around it or whatever traction that's been happening over the last few years, especially during COVID and post-COVID kind of a thing, that has helped a kind of movement happen in this way in terms of making that, ensuring that the community ensures or, kind of looks at mental wellness as one of the integral part when they're designing these employee benefits kind of.
What specific mental health benefits can be included in employee policies and why are these important?
See, when you speak about mental health, wellness and the related benefits, there are 2-3 things that we speak about generally, which are what the corporates look at. One, there is nothing called as, there's nothing called as a hospitalization and then you're doing a treatment when, because that's what generally people relate to in terms of employee health policies when you speak about policies and all. But what is required in these kind of scenarios is about access to, say, a therapist or, kind of being able to do one-to-one sessions and someone having this access without thinking about cost, because it is not that, these kind of issues will only happen with those who have that amount of resources that they can pay for and so on and so forth. These are kind of benefits that we're speaking about, which is either, access to therapists or being able to do one-to-one sessions and that being available under the benefits that the company is providing. These are the kind of benefits that we're speaking about.
How can companies ensure that their group health insurance policy is taking care of the complete health of their employees?
See, there was a time when GHI policies of that the clients used to take or corporates used to take was only about insurance or when you reach an hospital and once you get into an hospital. Slowly it changed to a point of saying, it's not only about when you go to the hospital, but it's also about outside of the hospital kind of thing. That's where the things have changed over the last few years. And today we speak about not only the hospitalization, but pre-hospitalization, post-hospitalization, if there's an access to teleconsultation or online consultation that you can do. Earlier it was with GPs, now we're speaking about specialists also being available. And then there are other things in terms of, if you have to go for a OPD consultation, is there a OPD available within the same policy or can it be available at a discounted price? And similar thing for any other wellness sessions, where it's about gym memberships or everything else kind of, where it's about discounts on medicines and so on and so forth. So these are the various things which, by including all of these things into your existing employee benefits kind of a program. That's what you can make it as much comprehensive in nature.
What role do telemedicine and virtual mental health counselling play in today's GHI policies?
See, as you said, right, there was a time when, group health insurance was only about hospitalization, as we said earlier. What we speak about telemedicine is one thing which helps kind of when it's available. What we've seen as a difference is someone who did not have access to a free telehealth consultation or a free OPD program under the health insurance or the employee benefits that's there. There's a waiting that the employee would do generally. Someone had a fever, or I'm just taking this as an example. Someone had a fever or some ailment kind of thing. They would wait for a day or, say for basic period, and then they would kind of go for a consultation and so on and so forth. And that would have, and in some of those, not in each and every ailment like fever, I'm taking that as an example, but some of the ailments, this delay itself would have costed you a lot more ahead, right? Your number of days of hospitalization would have expanded, or the kind of treatment that is good, it would have expanded. And similarly, in the mental health side of it also, not having the access to these facilities is one thing what can lead to people going to a next level of a problematic stage. And at that point, you trying to bring it back to a normalcy will take much longer kind of. So it's very clear that, these kind of, whenever you have these programs available, whether it's about telemedicine or mental health facilities and all of that stuff, which is in terms of counselors, access to counselors or access to sessions, therapy sessions, and so on and so forth. These have clearly shown an indicator in terms of how can it reduce employee absenteeism, or the effect that has on employee or their family members in terms of cutting down the number of days of hospitalization or cutting down the requirement to go to an hospital.
How do group term life and group personal accident policies complement GHI in taking care of employees?
See, when you look at employee benefits as such, group health insurance is what it has generally started with. But when you look at what is the benefit that you would want to give an employee is, one, when the employee is in any kind of trouble, you would want to take care of it. Or their family, the next definition of it is whenever they or their family is in trouble, you want to take care of it, right? And you want to clearly show that you care for them. That's what it's about. Now, as part of it, one thing is hospitalization. When the employee is in the hospital, how do you take care of that employee, or how do you assist them in terms of the costs and everything else? The next part is, if something happens to the employee, then what happens? What is to be, how do you take care of it? Now, there's an accident that happens, and tomorrow the employee is not able to come for the next 6 months. That employee is going to be on bed rest or some kind of rest for the next 6 months. Now, as an organization, you have to pay, but if you are a company which is not into having so much of resources, or yours is kind of a startup or just cross the startup stage kind of thing, you might not be able to do that also. In those scenarios, who's going to pay to that employee, or who's going to take care of their expenses for the next 6 months? So that's where some of these things like GPA, group personal accident policies, come into picture, where even in those kind of scenarios, there's an employee payout is taken care of, so that it's not a burden to the company, it's not a burden to the family as well. The same thing, the next stage of it is, if the employee passes away, either due to accident or any other ailment kind of a thing, then it's about what happens to the family. Or again, some of these, how do you put it? There's a lot of younger workforce today being there, and every time we speak about on the regular retail side, we always clearly speak about the penetration in the country. But had penetration been so high in the country, then obviously all of these programs really might not make a difference as such, because everyone is covered under their own insurance programs. Because the penetration is so low, and especially we're speaking about our workforce being a lot younger than what it used to be in the country earlier, which means people are not buying retail health or retail life insurance so early in their careers, and that happens only at a later stage. Probably this can change over the next few years but at this stage, obviously, company being able to provide something like a group term life policy or a group personal accident, which kind of takes care of their family needs in case the employee passes away, is kind of a clearly comforting factor. And that's something which we're seeing slowly with time, and especially around COVID is when this sensitivity has increased, and we've seen a lot more corporates approach or their approach change towards group personal accident, group term life post-COVID clearly. And we're seeing a lot more corporates nowadays kind of making it part of their entire employee benefits practice in order to ensure that they're giving a comprehensive coverage to their employees.
How can businesses decide the right amount of group term life and group personal accident for their employees?
See, there's nothing called as a right amount of coverage, right? It's just about what do you believe as a philosophy. So I'll just tell two examples broadly to tell you what we've seen, and broadly to give a different thought process. And then it's about what do you believe as a company. There are certain companies who say, I would want to give it as a multiple of my income, because generally for insurance companies, they would decide that they will not give beyond a particular multiple, probably 10x or 15x of your annual income. Okay. That's what the maximum cover that they would give. Now within the 10x, 15x, they would want to decide saying, I would want to give 5x of the income or 10x of the income or 10 times of the income as a sum insured or the cover amount. Now, which means the person who's at a 2 lakh rupees of sum insured or 2 lakh rupees of annual income or a 3 lakh rupees of annual income ends up getting only, say, if you decide you want to give 5 times, then they end up getting either a 10 lakh or a 15 lakh rupees of coverage. And whereas someone who's at, say, 50 lakh rupees of salary probably would end up at, say, 2.5 crore kind of a coverage kind of a thing, right? Or they might have a capping saying 1.5 crore. But this is one approach that people take. And then there is other organizations which have started taking an approach the other way around, saying we're okay not to, kind of say overpay on the higher side, because anyways, once a employee starts going into a different range of salary, they also take their own policies and they have their coverages, and it might not really matter to them and their families. But those who are in below 5 lakh rupees annual income, these are the vulnerable segment, or something happens to them, then the family is to be taken care of and all. So it said, someone who's up to 5 lakh rupees, I would give anyone by default of 50 lakh rupees of coverage, or say 25 lakh rupees of coverage. And anyone above that, I would only say maximum give up to 75 lakh, or, I cap it there, that's it. Irrespective of whatever your income is, I'm giving everyone everyone the same, or I'm actually taking care of those who are at the lower income stage, because those are the ones who require it. So there's nothing that says what is the right cover. It's just about, there's a capping that the insurance company would give. You'll have to do within that. Now it's just up to you whether you would want to say, want to have a linear kind of a multiplier, which says that, you really are not saying, whether the person who's earning 3 lakhs should get 25 lakhs, 30 lakhs or 50 lakhs or not. And and versus the 50 lakh people getting a 2 crore or a 1 crore kind of a cover, versus you saying the ones who are actually vulnerable are the ones where you should give, say, a 50 lakh cover, and you really need not worry so much about the particular salary slab.
What's also very important is that your employees know that you're providing these mental health benefits. How can businesses effectively communicate to their employees that these benefits are available and you should take them up if needed?
See, there are a lot of companies which are providing these benefits, but one thing that you have to understand with mental health and the kind of benefits that are available is that, or around this category, is that a lot of people, when they are into such a kind of a issue, one is about identifying, or they themselves being able to identify it. A lot of times what we've seen is that, people are not able to identify themselves that they're in need of help.
Right.
That's a very important thing. The second part is that once they identify that, I might need help, the second part is they feel shy about, and there's a lot of shyness around this, can I speak to some people about it? Can I speak to my colleagues about it? Tomorrow they're not going to make fun of it, or am I going to get some other negative reviews because of this in my overall appraisal or the way I'm seen in the company? There's a lot of problematic situation that employees go through around this, right? So I think one of the reasons this happens is because the way we have a fast moving world and the way it is. The way to tackle with this, or to ensure that employees, whenever you make in these two ways, either you make the employees who are actually need walk up and say, okay, I need help, and the second thing is actually utilize it, is in terms of ensuring, probably one is the kind of webinars or sessions that we can do with mental wellness related professionals, which we also do in a lot of corporates these days, which will, when you go up and when you're speaking and when you kind of, when these professionals are giving some examples and all, that's when some of the employees also will feel that, okay, this is what I'm also going through, so I might want to ask about it, I might want to speak about it. That's what starts to make them realize in some of the situations. The second is, once they realize, I think, how are you able to give us, probably a kind of a benefit where they're able to maintain their privacy without much being disclosed about it, and yet use it, kind of a thing. That's other thing about it. Probably, say, being able to do virtual sessions, being available at any point of time, not that, you have to go only during office hours by taking leaves, and you have to justify why you are taking so many leaves, and there are a lot of things around it, right? You being able to have sessions which are virtual also as and when required, or which are also available physically, and they being able to attend them at any point of time. And also, if there's something that's around the kind of a policy that you can have around the employee policy in terms of maintaining the privacy kind of thing, these are certain things which you'll have to do. And once you start doing it, that's when I think people will also come out and be able to realize and then speak about it to the professional who's going to help them out.
Time for audience questions now. Our first question is, our company offers group health insurance but does not include mental health services. How can we start integrated mental health benefits into our plan?
See, it's very simple, right? I think it's just about when the company comes up for renewal next time. Obviously, we can look at what are the other benefits that are available which are not there in that. That's one of the integral part of what we do today. When corporates approach us, when their renewal is due or whatever it is, we kind of benchmark it against some of the benefits that their peers in the similar group or the industry would be giving, or similar kind of companies would be giving, kind of, and then try to recommend this. These are the things which are there, which you are missing out in your policy. The second thing is about also saying these are the new age benefits that, let's assume whether it's about OPD plans, voluntary OPD plans, or whether it's about, mental wellness related benefits. These are the ones which you are not included in this, and these are the things which can be included in this at a very minimal cost. Or, if cost is a concern, how can we ensure that it is minimized, but at the same time available for employees also? That's broadly how we can have this discussion around at the time of renewal.
We are a startup with a small team. What kind of employee insurance would you recommend to us?
See, if you're a startup with a small team, then, generally assuming that, as you said, it's a small team and a startup, you'd be crunched for resources, kind of. So in that situation, you would suggest that at least you should cover your employees for sure, with sum insured of nothing less than about 3 to 5 lakh rupees. That's what basic we would suggest. And lot of people feel that at times that the employee health insurance would be a very costly affair and we might not be able to, but that's not the reality. Today we insure a lot of startups, starting from someone who's having a 7 employees onwards till about say 500 employees in the entire range of startups kind of thing, right? And we obviously work on the larger corporates as well, but we insure across the range, and the cost is not so much. It's a very simple cost, and I don't think once you start exploring you will understand what we're speaking about. So you should look at about 3 to 5 lakh rupees coverage at least for the employees that you should cover, and probably once you kind of move to the next stage, that's when you should look at including spouse and kids as well. That's one part. The second part is probably when I said the stage that you should look at, there might be a stage when you are looking at attracting talent from other companies to join you kind of. Now these companies might be offering certain benefits where they're covering employee, spouse, kid and other giving other benefits. So that's a stage where you have to decide and know what is the kind of talent that you're attracting, where are you attracting from, will they see this as a challenge? Because some people might see that, right? Some people would need that as a benefit. And especially when you're speaking about startup, at times it might also happen that they might go through phases of where you might delay salaries for a month, you might delay salaries for 15 days. Assume that the same time if there's a medical emergency in the family and the salary is also delayed, what would the employee be going through? Right. So it's a very important part which can come at a very small cost. So that's one thing but you should definitely look at.
Many of our employees work remotely. How can GHI, GTL and GPA be customized to suit the needs of a hybrid or remote workforce?
See, irrespective of whether your employees are in office or remotely, one thing is for sure, the benefits which are there under these policies in terms of covering them when they're in a hospital or in case of a death or in case of accident remains the same, whether the person is working virtually or whether the person is working from home. The other thing is, what is important is today in an employee policy or a health policy, generally you see about anywhere between 5 to 10% of employees or their family members going to a hospital, and that's the only engagement that you have generally, right? So out of 100 employees that you have, probably 5 to 10 employees would have used the policy and they would have got a benefit, and then they feel, okay, this is a good thing that we have as part of our employee benefits program in the company. But how do you engage the rest of the workforce which is working virtually, right? Now, which is in terms of ensuring that you integrate like health related programs, which is online consultation related programs, which means out of 100 employees, generally I'm sure 60 people or 70 people would require a need to speak to a doctor at some point of time throughout a year. We speak in a year. So that increases the amount of engagement that you can do or the kind of benefits that you're providing them, where they'll be able to speak to a doctor at any point of time across specializations. And similarly, probably a voluntary OPD program where there's a necessity, wherever people see that probably we would want to go and actually meet a doctor in person, or they see the need of it. There'll be people who would be able to subscribe to it without the company being required to kind of commit to a larger amount for everyone. So something like a telehealth or online consultation related programs, a voluntary OPD program which can be stitched into the employee health insurance program, and also the kind of things that we do today at Policybazaar for Business, where we're speaking about the kind of system that we have with respect to an app and a WhatsApp and a lot of wellness activities that we do around, also the other benefits that we give around that to employees. That ensures that what we see as high as about 75 to 80% of employees engaging in these regularly at some point of time or the other. This improves the kind of employee benefits program that you're providing. It just what you're doing is good, but then it's just about improving the efficiency around it and being able to engage better with your employees is what this helps in.
Thank you for all of those insights, Sajja. I'm sure these have been very, very helpful to all our listeners. And listeners, if you still have any queries whatsoever, just reach out to us through our official channels or feel free to drop a comment below and we'll take it up in the next session.